The title of my study is Assessment in the Context of Teaching, so we still in the mood of assessment. Continue with it. Investigating teachers' perceptions of assessment practices that enhance the learning outcomes. I'll start by the introduction and the rationale of my study. Educational goals and learning outcomes can be easily and successfully integrated and linked if you integrate assessment practices that align with teaching and learning targets. Literature of assessment emphasized this integration because it bridges the gap between them. Educational reform suggested conducting many research studies that address or discuss the educational assessment and all its topic. That's why the assessment is assigned as one of the main domains in the KHDA inspection framework here in Dubai. So what's the problem? Although educational assessment or the assessment types have become very popular concern in all Dubai schools because of the regular visits of KHD inspectors each academic year. UAE scores in the international assessment exams in 2012 and in 2015 that were released recently below average in all core subjects like science, math, and English. More dramatically, that UAE rank declined in 2015. So in spite of all of this, we don't have any literature, any research studies that discuss this critical topic, the assessment in UAE. So the objective of my study would be explain teachers' perceptions about different types of assessment, investigate the extent to which teachers use the assessment data to enhance the learning process. There's, in the literature review, there's a prevalent misalignment between what teachers believe in and their classroom assessment practices. We all know that teachers' role is very important. Why? Because they can transmit values to the adaptation of both assessment and curriculum in the light of their experiences, teaching and learning experiences. That's why investigating their perceptions is very important to minimize the belief practice gap and to impact the assessment process. My questions: what are teachers' perceptions of assessment practices in the context of teaching, and to what extent do teachers use assessment information to improve the learning process? The conceptual framework, I used the book Inger and Yeager to adapt the types of assessment used at this study. This book published 2009. Assessment practices, we have here two types. Assessment for learning and assessment of learning, and the way in which teachers use to collect information about their students' knowledge, application, and skills can range from informal to formal methods. It means that they can use summative or formative assessment or combination between them. So based on this book, we have two categories. Assessment for learning refers to the ongoing assessment process, and the data collected from this assessment are used to improve the quality of teaching and learning practices, which definitely can be used to enhance the students' achievements and to promote the educational development process in general. Assessment of learning, this process or this type of assessment is used, refers to evidence to judge the quality of assessment or the quality of learning in the school or any organization, and this type, of course, in the light of students' achievements and learning outcomes. I have here two types, formative and alternative assessment. It's a must in both of them for teachers to provide their students with a feedback that will inform the teaching and learning process. For summative assessment, these are are the final exams made by teachers, internal exams, or international exams. One more point here, it was argued in the literature that all types of formative assessment shouldn't be used to grade students, shouldn't be used for grading, but for preparing students for the summative assessment where attainments can be measured. The theoretical framework, here, John Bakes used the constructive alignment theory to make or to devise or make connection, interaction between teaching learning activities and assessment practices. And all of this will directly address the intended learning outcomes. This theory, there are two concepts behind it, which is cognitive psychology and constructive theory. We have two benefits here. First one is teachers, when they make this deliberate alignment, they will be able to design assessment criteria that will be used for giving effective feedback to their students. And on the other hand, learners, they will be able to construct meaning. And this meaning will be, as a result of building on their prior knowledge, so they will gain new knowledge. Not only like this, what's more and what's important, that by this way, student self-assessment will be enhanced. Why? Because they have assessment criteria before they start their task, and they can assess themselves. The literature review I divided into two: assessment for learning and assessment for of learning, and I was selective to a certain degree to give you the main points that support my study. Assessment for learning research suggested that assessment for learning develops student metacognition and launches them in the direction of autonomous learning, and this is what the theory mentioned. Assessment, also the literature asserted that assessment shouldn't be handled in isolation, and administrations are responsible about increasing and enhancing students' awareness about assessment types and its practices by more professional development programs. Research also concluded that the feedback given to students should be understandable, supportive, manageable, well-intentioned, in order to help students use it for improvement before the next submission. Also, the literature recommended what's called constructivist perspective-based assessment, and this perspective aimed to make coordination between process-oriented alternative assessment and product-oriented evaluation in order to improve in the long run, improve the educational development. Assessment for learning also should be consistent and systematic. Consistent will help students to be familiar with the process, and step by step they will use the feedback rather than just taking the feedback, read it and close their books. They will use it for improvement, and each feedback will be the same. So consistency is important, and systematic, because this will help teachers to be updated and their practice enhanced each professional development program. Finally, this is very important that literature confirmed that assessment for learning provides high quality of learning information. And in spite of this fact, teachers look at the options of assessment for learning as teaching and learning activities, and rarely use the data provided by this type of assessment for improving purposes. Assessment of learning, in spite all of the positive promises recorded in the literature, and I mentioned right now about the assessment for learning, enhances students' metacognition, increase or promote the educational development, improve learning outcomes. In spite of all of this, the summative use of assessment remains at the top priorities of the international educational policies. It seems that implementing assessment for learning in schools is problematic or difficult, because the literature discussed many barriers that teachers face, like classroom size, time management, budget of the school, and many other things and deficiencies that should be put right first before we ask teachers to have successful implementation and in order to facilitate their practices. Another point found in the literature that it was discussed in the literature and confirmed that internal assessment made by teachers in the school are very important, because they draw references of students' learning, and they also collect evidence to judge the quality of education, which means simply that performance of the school will be quantified. Considerable amount of official support indicates that we have three elements that should be interacted or aligned: the curriculum, assessment, and teaching and learning and instruction. And the literature referred to them as the educational triangle, that if you have a successful alignment between the three angles, what will happen? The educational development will be enhanced. It was also admitted in the literature that it's difficult to expect from any of these summative exams, a limited exam, to give you a realistic assessment about students' level. But one more point, which is a positive point about assessment, summative assessment, is it's used for curriculum backwash, which means that the result is used to dominate what should be taught in the curriculum. Finally, the combination of formative and summative assessment is recommended in the literature, because this combination, one point should be mentioned here, that for enhancing formative assessment practices, when you enhance this kind of practice, this significantly raises the students' scores in the summative assessment. So it looks like a cycle. Enhanced formative assessment practices, students' score will be higher in summative assessment. Use this data to again improve the formative assessment. Educational leaders should reflect on those results by how good or bad their teachers are doing in the classroom at certain point. Then they establish future plans to improve the assessment practices in their schools. The methodology, it's a mixed method research by associating qualitative and quantitative data in order to, let's say, have more depth and breadth understanding of the topic. The data was collected concurrently for the limited time I given for this research. Besides, data triangulated to validate the information. One more point, which is, okay, I'm about to finish. One more point, that 39 participants were recruited, core subject teachers, all of them core subject teachers, and a similar characteristic between them, that all of them in Dubai and all Dubai schools are inspected by KHDA, which means that their performance is evaluated by the same rubric. It was a convenience sampling based on the availability and opportunity. The instruments quantitative questionnaire sent to teachers by email, the link sent to them, and the questionnaire is adapted from another previous study, and reliability was checked. Qualitative semi-structured interview with 2 academic leaders from 2 different schools in Dubai was conducted, and the data triangulated by sending the interview questionnaire to one KHDA inspector, and she responded to confirm the previous data. I faced one problem with one of them. She thought that I'm there meeting with her to give her solutions. And I was convincing her that I'm a researcher, I'm a learner, I'm here to know about the reality, not to give you solutions, maybe the results of the study, give you the solutions you're thinking for. All ethical approvals were taken into consideration. Quantitative data, if you look here, you will find that teachers' high means came for objectives of the lesson. Teachers focus on them. Also, the written quizzes after each topic, while reflection, feedback, prior knowledge, they don't have enough time for this. Also, one high focus here is students' portfolio, and let's focus on students' needs, or interviewing students to know their needs. Also, high focus was given to final exams, attending international tests, and less focus was given for improving teaching instruction based on those results. Last thing, high means for using the data of assessment for marks and grading students and for the certificates or informed parents by the results. Less focus was given for adapting teaching strategies or even the curriculum. For the qualitative data, I'll mention them fast. I said I met with two academic leaders. Regarding the practices, I have here some discrepancies in the some agreements and disagreements between these two academic leaders. So for the successful assessment practice here, the first one said we had different types, and teachers give feedback, and students reflect, and we use the data and so on. The other one said not all my teachers can assess in a proper way, so she admit this. Regarding if the assessment affect the curriculum by any means, the first one mentioned that yes, they cover the gap of the curriculum, they have curriculum checklist and so on. The second one said we, by maximum, the scope and sequence will be modified. Effect of a standardized exam in school assessment. The first one said yes, we judge and validate the internal assessment, we modify the assessment framework, while the second one said criteria used in international assessment are not easy to be analyzed. Finally, the barriers, they mentioned many barriers, both of them: limited time, variety of assessment information is problematic, and not enough team members work on this. So regarding the discussion, although my study was conducted in a small scale, many useful issues are raised here regarding assessment. So what the two questions were fully answered. The teachers, as you say, they focus on exams, internal and external, and they prepare their lesson based on their activities based on the lesson objectives, and that's why there is a lack of enough attention given to time for feedback or reflection. Another point that students focus on a student's portfolio, which is a document-based assessment, more than focus given to exploring students' needs. The important point here, assessment data, how they use it. Intensively, they use it for modifying internal exams. More than those areas, improve learning process, enhance teaching and instruction, developing curriculum. They see many problems here, and they can do it in the same way. So my conclusion here focused on 3 points. Core subject teachers, they know a lot. They have good information which reflect or indicates the effectiveness of the professional development program they attend, while they have problems in the praxis. So they have adequate knowledge, but the assessment information is mainly used for redesigning the internal exams. Professional assessment practitioners are needed to suggest solutions for all the discrepancies found in Dubai schools. For the assessment research, I think evidence-based research should seriously be used for better praxis. Innovative professional development program should be used for teachers to increase their awareness. And finally, there is a recommendation here based on the teachers or based on the participants' perceptions. They suggested decrease teachers' load of classes and duties so they have enough time for assessment analysis, and increased number of school days, members in the data analysis team. For future research, investigating these solutions is important. Case studies in a certain school is also recommended to investigate if these solutions are effective. Limitation of the study, number of females here was higher. It was 79% of participants female, so results can be generalized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Law is just like asking why is it hot outside. The answer is clear there. I don't want to mention in X schools the rate of math for science was 189, where the minimum for grade 5 was 208. And my students personally came out and told me, Miss, what is electron configuration? What is EVS? What is? We embedded the map test in the KHDA. With all the respect for them, they're promising, they're developing and doing better every day, but they embedded and forced us as schools and teachers to adopt the map in no time. Okay, this year you have to get map. Now, almost all questions for grade 5 were not among the curriculum that we teach. It's not that our students are not achieving, it's that we blindly embedded the map and the PISA and the TIMS without making the teachers ready for that. My curriculum, the whole curriculum for Michigan does not cover the map. Okay, I'm a teacher who sat during the whole summer reading Michigan benchmarks, and I was trying to follow the Michigan assessments and Michigan objectives and everything, and we want to be like, following the international standards, and then all of a sudden, you have to prepare the students in 1 week to get the international Iowa results. And this is another story. In 1 week, you did not get it. You're below the international level. Your school is that. Your school is this. As a teacher, then we found out that the Iowa does not meet our, standards. Okay, we don't want map. Tomorrow morning, we don't want Iowa. We want to embed the map test. So the idea is that I think that this process should go. This policy, applying a policy in education, should come with a kit on how to apply it. You shouldn't embed or adapt a policy without telling us how to apply it. It's not just go apply it, it's not going this way. So this is why the whole Arabian world are getting low results for math tests. It's not because the students are below levels, it's just because we're not teaching the benchmarks simply.
Thank you.
The problem, as you said, in the process, because we think now you already said the problem and explained it, but there is solution. When we take the international assessment results, we should use them in a proper way. What the proper way? It should be reflected in the curriculum, should be reflected in the teaching strategy, should be reflected in the resources they use at the school. If this reflection happen in a successful way, in a proper way, the results will be increased. But the problem is that we don't use the assessment results, and this is the study, what the study exactly mentioned, that assessment results are not used in a proper way. Teachers use it just to modify the internal exam, and this is not.
But we're not assessing. We're not assessing for the sake of assessment. Like, for example, schools. Just one thing. Like, if we're going to develop schools, when a school asks you to make an exam that lasts for 2 hours because they need to keep the students in the exam hall until the bus, until the buses are ready. We're way behind the reason.
Yes, we're way behind. You're
way
right.
Behind.
We're right. Behind in practice, in implementation.
Yeah. If you see one of my exams in my X school without mentioning names.
Give a chance for somebody.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You mentioned a very good point here, which is the constructive alignment theory and the alignment between the curriculum, the assessment, and the teaching practice, or the teaching and learning instruction side of the classrooms. One of the things that I want to just combine everything together regarding the map assessment and what you have mentioned here, and this is something that we already planned for in our school, is to connect between the international assessment and the formative assessment. As you told, there should be focus on the teaching inside the classrooms and on the reflection and the feedback of the formative assessment. what we did actually that it's to align the standards of the MAP or the power standards of the MAP NIWA to the curriculum that we are teaching inside the school. So I think by this end, aligning these standards to the assessment, so I think we are filling the gap by focusing on the formative assessment inside the classroom.
That's right.
It was a question actually, but I came up with the,
So
with the
the
answer
question.
to the problem that has been highlighted. The second thing that I would like just to highlight quickly, the role of the feedback for the teachers and the students. I think for further study, just put in consideration that this is something very important to investigate and to see that the documents of the teachers and the students and to what extent it's affecting the progress of the students.
Two things. One, and they're not really questions. Just the first one maybe. Perhaps sometimes with this big discussion or these discussions we have about assessment, perhaps the real question is: do people understand the purpose of assessment?
Yeah.
Because we talk endlessly about modes of assessment. We talk endlessly about the end result. What about the purpose? I sometimes think we don't spend enough time there. And the second thing, and this is a very sobering thought, and I don't know if I agree with it. However, for all the tests, international tests like PISA we use, for all the discussion of literacy and numeracy, there's another test. Do the employers in this part of the world, as they do in some parts of the UK, give literacy and numeracy tests to young people as they come in? Because that's a terrible indictment on the school system.
This confirms the point I actually observed when Sandra said that in Lebanon, parents who speak English or French with their students
Perform better.
perform better. This for me reflects a problem in the international assessment exams. Why it's only in English? What the purpose of the assessment? The purpose of the assessment is not to assess English. The purpose of the assessment is to assess knowledge and skills. So should be translated to students, and it's unfair. Should be translated to students in their language, then assess their knowledge and skills. So what the mean of you just assist them in English and they are not English speakers. So you don't have a real data here. So the purpose of assessment here is not, yes?
Yeah, but some of them are in Arabic. For example,
Sorry?
for example, PISA is not in Arabic.
Mm.
And I think to a certain extent, I think TIMS is also done in Arabic as well.
That's why this is the point Sandra said, and I observed that we shouldn't look at the any international assessment from this angle. It's not a point. So if international assessment exams are offered in the language of the country, that's great. Shouldn't be given, but here in UAE, we give them the international assessment exam in English, only in English, only in public schools.
No.
Public schools.
But that's really interesting because I'm talking public schools. In public schools, they're done in Arabic.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But here in American language school, American curriculum schools, we have many problems in the English language. According to the research, their students are not proficient in English. So why we don't give them the assessment in Arabic to assess the knowledge of science, knowledge of math? Only give them English exam in English.
So the students are not given choice between Arabic, even though there is.
They
an
don't.
Arabic exam.
They don't have the choice. They don't have the choice.
We're also using the words public school in different ways. You know, how many schools are independently funded, and are they doing the PISA test? Because we have independently funded schools, and they're not doing the PISA tests. They're not involved. You know, is every school involved?
It's a control process by the Ministry of Education, liaise to those zone of education departments, and they will select the sample. So the sample is a national sample. That will include,
privately funded?
it's certified. It will include all different sectors, the governmental schools and the private schools as well. So it's a mix of all.
It's a good sign.
I think maybe that's a study for the future, Marwa.
It's my next study.
Is to be able to really have like some schools will volunteer to really take it in English in those like private schools. I mean in Arabic. In those private schools.
In their language.
Versus the language of instruction, because their language of instruction is in English.
I assume that the results will be different. Results will be different.
A final things for you.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to have a conclusion to talk about the 4 and 2, assessment 4 and 2 in terms of the discussion. you should really come back and tie that to the
You
original
raised
instruction.
your paper, and
Yeah.
you know, after you read the paper, many things.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.